Look, here's the thing.
Like, here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
Here's the fucking thing.
Look, here's the thing.
Okay. Okay.
It's the ever-loving blue-eyed thing. It's clobbering time.
Just want to add a little bit of zip.
Look, here's the thing.
Like, here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
Here's the fucking thing.
Look, here's the thing.
Okay. Okay.
It's the ever-loving blue-eyed thing. It's clobbering time.
Just want to add a little bit of zip.
When Jeffrey Epstein died, his largest single asset that he possessed was a stake in Valor Ventures, which was launched and owned by Peter Thiel. That's another Lord of the Rings reference, by the way. Valor, the Valor spirits, immortal spirits. Bob, the old ways, can explain that better than I can. But it is and there's literal emails that we can see from the files where Epstein basically, Thiel urged Epstein to invest in Valor Ventures, and eventually he did, to the total of about $40 million. Two $20 million investments Epstein put into this thing, right? And this is a company that generally backs startup tech stuff. So none of the stuff that they've been pretty successful apparently, but so one tangible outcome of Thiel's relationship with Epstein was a major financial deal. Epstein invested $40 million into Thiel's venture firm Valor Ventures in 2015 and 2016. Valor Ventures, which Thiel co-founded in 2010, specializes in fintech and startup investments. Epstein's contributions were split between two Valor managed funds in 2015 and 2016, were kept secret from the public and even many within Thiel's circles until years later.
Progressive views, but that doesn't mean I'm a good person. Liberals make that mistake sometimes. I have a more conservative friend, and he has views that really, he's one of those guys, and we all know those guys, who's like, you see this article? No, a trans woman played volleyball, made a little girl explode. And I can't stand that shit, because the kind of guys that complain about trans women playing women's sports are the same kind of guys that told guys like me in high school, you run like a girl, you throw like a girl, and now they're mad because some of us followed through. But I will say, in his defense, he is a wonderful human being, better than I could ever imagine being. I'll tell you a story. Once, me and my conservative friend, we were walking down the street in New York City. In front of us was walking a woman in very high heels. As far as I could tell, she was trans. Now, at some point, this woman, she tripped on her right heel. She fell into the street right as a bus was approaching. And my conservative friend ran into the street, scooped her up just in the nick of time, helped her on her feet, sent her about her way, and then he turned to me and was like, that's why men shouldn't wear heels. It was a lot of things all at once. And I want to be clear, I think it's a shitty thing to do. But if I had been alone, I would have been like, oh no, she's dead.
Welcome, John Marco Scorsese. Very funny guy. I recommend you follow him on the social medias, particularly YouTube. He posts there's just so many clips of this guy with fresh material constantly. I don't know how he does it, but we need a lot more guys like him, a lot fewer guys like, the ones. Welcome. This is kind of an impromptu thing I wanted to do because I found myself obsessing, as I do sometimes. It's kind of alternating between a couple of things. If you look at yesterday's stream and today's stream, you can tell exactly what those things are. I'm spending a lot of time obsessing, and when I say obsessing, I'm not like to the detriment of anything. Like I'm still taking care of my family and myself and shit, but like, in my mind's free time, I think about and I learn about, like last night, for instance, I stayed up learning about the deep ties of Jeffrey Epstein to Russia and Putin. Much deeper, much more there than I ever thought. And not only that, but connected to Ghislaine Maxwell's father, who If you know anything about him, he's got quite a story. And you know, I have a working theory now as to where Epstein got at least the money he had at the very beginning of his career. So that's been a big mystery for some people. I mean, the information's kind of out there, so I'm sure I'm not the only one that's realized this. I'm confident I'm not. But like, you know, there's some ways that he could have gotten that money despite not having any apparent way to make money other than, you know, probably blackmailing people, which is pretty much exactly what he did, I think. Nonetheless, there's that. But that's not always healthy to think about too much. So whenever I get kind of frustrated thinking about that stuff, lately I've been thinking, what's going on with this Marvel Cinematic Universe? You know, because I think they are doing some deceptions. And I think that the more I look at Doomsday, the trailer, and the more I look at think about the quote unquote leaks, and then, you know, as well as Spider-Man Brand New Day, we've only got 2 weeks for that one, basically. There's some mysteries around that. There's obvious mystery around Brand New Day that I think that they're not even hiding, that they want it to be a mystery. That's one thing. Then with Doomsday, I think it's a different thing. So far, the tactic is, here's what the movie's going to be. They're going to fight Doctor Doom. And Thor's scared of Doctor Doom. But then Captain America shows up. Yay. That's what that trailer presents, right? In fact, I have a short here from a channel that I used to really greatly admire, actually. I promoted a video to somebody in chat the other day by this guy. He, like many people, has become more cynical about Marvel in the last few years, but back whenever I was a big fan of his channel and being inspired to make my own content by him, he was you know, he was on board. So this is Nerd Sync, and I was kind of taken aback by the cynical nature of this short that I encountered by him. But let's check this out real quick.
Right now, if you can tell me why I should be afraid of Doctor Doom. And I don't mean the comic book character, I mean the movie character in Avengers Doomsday. I know Thor is over here quaking in his boots, quivering in his little...
I'm sorry, Thor's not quaking in his boots. He's shitting in everybody's pants. That's official. That's canon.
Cape telling me that Doctor Doom is the biggest, baddest, most scary guy they've ever faced, and he can't just tell me that. I, as an audience member, need to see it. Show me why Doctor Doom is such a big threat. Don't just make empty promises and say, trust me, bro, he's scary. What are the stakes of this movie? What is this movie even about? It can't just be cameos of characters meeting each other, punching a bit, and before they all team up and fight a big bad guy who's not even as big and bad as I think he is, because they haven't shown me anything. Show me something. What is this movie? What are the stakes? God, I feel so bad for the people who are excited for this movie. Not because I think they're idiots. I'm glad you're excited for something. I just think you deserve more. I want more for you in life. Oh, Thor was attacking him, and then he stopped Thor's attack, and he even blocked Thor's big, powerful magic weapon. Guess what? We've already seen that in another trailer like 10 years ago when Hela did it, and at least Hela destroyed Mjolnir, which made it even more menacing. What is happening? Why am I afraid of this man? What are the stakes? What is this movie?
Okay, so you know, first of all, I can understand anybody that's approaching it from this level. If you've been disappointed by the MCU, which I have to a degree, I have lost some a good bit of that goodwill that I had for it for the entirety of the Infinity Saga. In fact, I feel like they earned a lot more goodwill from me just with the final couple of films in the Infinity Saga, and then based on that, I was expecting, you know, something more consistently awesome, and I didn't really get that. Nonetheless, none of it's been enough to make me entirely cynical, because the fact is that if you think that this trailer is giving away anything, or if it's trying to, if this is the limit of the story, if you think this movie is just going to be Doctor Doom's scary, he's going to beat everybody, and then they're going to have to come together. Maybe they fight first, and then they're going to come together and defeat Doctor Doom. I'm sure that will be in the movie. I'm certain that will be in the movie. Okay, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to make a call right now on this movie, and in a few minutes I'll make a call on Brand New Day as well. And I think you're going to find, probably, good chance, that I'm pretty much correct. I'm gonna call it. Here it goes. I'm sure some of you watch this content that's floating around. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm the only one saying these things. I know that there are other people saying these things, but there's been plenty of things people have said that I have disagreed with, such as the Jean Grey thing in Brand New Day. A little spoiler about that. I now kind of think it is Jean Grey. Yeah, and I will get to that in a minute. But that's not even the big surprise. The big surprise with Brand New Day, if it's what I think it is kind of never should have been a surprise, and it's kind of crazy that it became one. Anyway, we'll get there. So Steve Rogers, when he it's obviously we can't trust that the things are happening in that trailer are happening in that order in the movie. That's obviously not chronological order. It almost never is, you know what I mean? But I think that with this one, they're trying to make us think that it is. Thor and some unknown group of people is, if you listen to what he's saying, Thor is talking about him and the best heroes he's ever seen. They've already stood up to this menace and they've lost, who's he saying that to? Not sure, but nonetheless, he, and then is seemingly how the trailer presents it in their time of need, in their darkest hour, who shows up but goddamn Steve Rogers, Captain America. And he's just, looking casual as can be. He's got a real nice jacket on. He's been doing some grooming of his facial hair. It's looking pretty good, man. It's looking pretty good. But I want you to think about the tone of what Thor says there, which again might not actually be what he says in that moment. It could be what I used to call Frankenlines, where they, or whatever, where they take a line from another part of a movie and put it in a different part of the trailer to kind of, what I'm saying? You've seen it. They do that stuff sometimes. But he says it's not possible, right? But I want you to look at that top picture, and then look at the second one. Okay. The more you think about it, does that seem like the reaction that Steve Rogers, as we know him, would have to the hammer? I don't think so. I also want to point out that, and this is, not a fast and like a tried and true rule that's 100% of the time going to always be the case, but Steve Rogers is lit from below here. If you've been looking at this and thinking something's kind of weird, the lighting is conspicuous. He's lit from below. Now, what does this mean? Is this Mystique? Well, no, because she couldn't lift the hammer, I'm sure. But who can lift the hammer? Who has lifted the hammer under the right circumstances? Anybody want to take a guess? Feel free. I'm going to pull up an image real quick while I wait, see if anybody wants to do that. Steve can. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense the more you think about this. Let's start with what I said on the stream the other day whenever I was talking about my theories about this, that something happened when in the process of Steve Rogers taking the stones back. Something happened that changed the trajectory of everything. That made it so it wasn't exactly what we thought happened, right? That there's much more of a story to tell there. My guess at first was that it's going to be primarily what happened when he went back to put the space stone back, on the shield base or whatever it was called at the time, with Howard Stark and stuff. I thought maybe then he tells Steve, just decides, you know what, Howard Stark is a friend of mine. He knows me. He knows I'm not going to lie to him, so I'm going to tell him what's going on, basically. And so he tells him, and then Howard Stark perhaps makes some different choices than he made in the original timeline based on that. And that maybe leads to Victor Von Doom, who happens to look exactly like Tony Stark. And that's possible, maybe, sure. But now I'm thinking about it, and I'm going back to the thought that I had whenever Endgame came out at first. And I left the theater, one of the main things I was thinking was, holy shit, what happened whenever he met with Red Skull in the Soul Stone world or whatever? Was it called Vormir? I think it is. What happened there? Steve Rogers shows up. Did he have any advance warning did Clint tell him who was? I mean, I would assume so. Clint would have told him, like, hey man, the Red Skull's there. Be ready for that shit. You know what I mean? And or not, I don't know. But he shows up there and there's the Red Skull. What happened? What happened between Johann Schmidt, the exiled, shamed, beaten nemesis of Captain America? Do you think that he forgave Steve Rogers all those years? Of course not. He's not sitting there taking care of the Soul Stone situation, whatever, you know, because he's like loves it and because he's just given up on. No, it's because he has to. For whatever reason, he's tied to that role in that moment, right? If Steve Rogers showed up to him, that would be a pretty good opportunity for Johann Schmidt to go, okay, yeah, we're gonna do something about this. Now, what could he do to Steve Rogers in that context? What would exist in their immediate vicinity? What would be at play that could allow him to do anything to Steve Rogers that could, you know, be like a kind of a ace in the hole? Perhaps the Soul Stone itself. You know, the Soul Stone, which, you know, that's not how it was done in the comics, but of course it was done with the Tesseract in the comics, or the Cosmic Cube / Tesseract, which is a completely different thing than what it is in the movies. So we can't assume that it's got to be the same mechanism. Yeah, it kind of stands to reason that perhaps something happened with the Soul Stone and Steve Rogers' very fucking soul. Okay. Now, let's think about the meta reasons why this is probably likely. Okay. We know that this is the first part in a 2-part movie sequence that they're to some degree, they're absolutely trying to recreate the success of Infinity War and Endgame. Now, to assume that they're just going to try to do that based on the exact same story beats that they've done before, I think is naive and or cynical. I'm not sure. I think, you know, the way that NerdSync guy, Scott, I think is his name, the way he's talking about it is pretty silly. Like, yes, of course, they're trying to achieve capitalism success, you know, in terms of theater seats sold, right? Of course they are. But to think that it's just going to be more or less the same beats as Infinity War or whatever the fuck is just silly. Or that they're just going to, the X-Men and the Avengers are all going to fight and then they're going to come together and fight Dr. Doom. First of all, we know they're not going to win. We know they're not going to win. That's just obvious. Because Secret Wars is the movie where they fight to win, right? After losing dramatically. So now think about what Thor is saying whenever he's talking about, you know, seemingly Dr. Doom being you have never faced an enemy like this. This is, you know, I've never faced anything like this. Who do you think could actually cause Thor to feel that way? Steve Rogers with Mjolnir and a few other people on his side. Now we've seen the leaked stuff going around the sequence of them fighting Dr. Doom, and you know, Steve Rogers is there fighting alongside. I said whenever that came out, I'm pretty confident that most of, if not all of the leaked stuff from this cycle of movies has been intentional. I think that is something that Marvel is doing because they kind of know that they need to use every avenue they possibly can for marketing and hype building and stuff like that. So I think that was most likely leaked on purpose. And then you got to ask yourself, if it's leaked on purpose, what are they wanting us to think? Well, they're wanting us to see something we're familiar with, which is, oh, look, there's the X-Men. That's what we're expecting. You know, they're on the same team, and there's Fantastic Four. Holy shit, they're all together. There's Steve Rogers. He's got Mjolnir. There's Thor. Hold on one second. All right. Anybody there? Come on now. Where y'all at? Got 12 people watching. I need somebody in chat, so it'll say something here before I continue. Please. Until you do, we're gonna watch this. We're gonna watch this. Clavicular who went to Europe. Okay, Clavicular went to Europe, and he struck out a little bit.
We're gonna head to one of the clubs. They'll show you a good time, then
He's like,
whatever. We'll grab one of your numbers.
Look at the fan!
Now, okay, so I forgot that this is who this was doing the video. I've since I downloaded this video, learned that I forget which one of them. One of these guys in this Abba and Preach duo has now been credibly accused of some stuff. So I do not condone this guy or these guys or their content. Really, I've watched their stuff here and there, but I was not familiar with them really beyond superficially. I thought they had some funny takes. They would often criticize the people that I think need criticism, such as Clavicular. But apparently there's been some accusations about this guy, the one on the right here. So just keep that in mind. But the main thing I wanted to do is just point and laugh at Clavicular, who can't fucking, he can't get laid in Europe.
Let me just. Woo! That's them being polite.
I'm super interested. Our boy, I wouldn't say our boy, but
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's the one on the right. Is that Abba? I think it's Preach, right? I think, but nonetheless, a lot of the stuff that they comment on that I've seen is about, toxic masculinity and shitty gender views and stuff like that from Andrew Tate and the Manosphere, those guys. So the stuff that I forget exactly the details, but I remember reading it going, man, that's fucking gross. And considering the stuff that they tend to criticize, it's just so hypocritical. And that sucks, man. I don't want to say I hate a hypocrite more than even a chud, but in some cases I find them more loathsome, just in terms of like, you do a lot of damage to any kind of a movement to create more conscious social engagement whenever you are someone who advocates for more conscious social engagement, and then turns out you were doing the shitty thing behind the scenes too. I think it was more than that, man. Pretty sure it was more than that. Let me look it up real quick. Stealthing, that's what it is. Yeah, he's accused of stealthing, which is fucked up, man. That is, whew. If you don't know what stealthing is, I'm sure you all know what stealthing is. Yeah, I've seen them. I've definitely not been completely on board with some of their takes or whatever, but like generally, going against the Manosphere, you kind of, to some degree, I hate to say it, but perhaps at least until it's lost influence, you probably need some slightly toxic dudes out there that are going against the super toxic dudes. I could be wrong there. It could be a really stupid take of mine. I haven't really put a lot of thought into it, but I feel like that's probably just something that's kind of necessary in order to, you know what I'm saying. But I mean, look, man, at least I tell you, I'm fucking disgusting. I am gross. I'm a hideous human being. I sometimes, I'm not even gonna get into it, man. I'm gross. But Bob, hey, how's it going, man? Welcome to hop on if you want to. I'm just spinning some theories here, but I'm pretty confident in them. All right, back to this. Well, actually, first, did you guys see, who John Hinckley Jr. is, right? This is really disappointing because I remember he got out of prison. He's the guy that took a shot at Ronald Reagan in the 80s, and he hit him, just not well enough. He shot Reagan. And his stated reason was, obviously some severe mental health issues going on there, some delusions of grandeur and whatnot. He thought that if he could get the attention of Jodie Foster, who at the time was, I think, very young, like underage young, that he could get her to fall in love with him or whatever, so it's weird. But look, he did his time. He's in prison for a couple decades. And he got out like within, I guess, the last year and a half, 2 years. And I remember being like, that's cool, man, because he seemed like he was chill. He was writing music, singing songs on his guitar and stuff. And it's like, that's, I wouldn't have, he should have gone to prison. I'll say that. I'm not a fan of Reagan by any means, but going to prison for shooting the president is probably the thing that needs to happen. Right. Or whether mental health help that he might have needed. I don't know if he did or not. Maybe not, considering what I'm about to tell you. So nonetheless, I was like, look, that's cool. At least he gets to live a life of freedom now. You know, he's older, but he's out here writing songs and stuff like that. Good for him. Well, except now, maybe it seems like he picked up some stuff in prison.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing great. I'd like to talk about Imperium America. I started Imperium America with the hope that it'll make America a better place. We are a nationwide organization with members across the country. We oppose the Judeo-capitalist system currently in place in America.
Judeo-capitalist system. So, I mean, essentially that just means we believe that Jews and their money rule the world. So, you know, as if it wasn't obvious by the imagery here, this is a Nazi organization. This is just straight up a Nazi. I mean, that's all it is. And that's fucking upsetting, man. Like, because, I mean, hopefully what's fucked up is I hope that he doesn't get any interest in this, which kind of makes me sad that that's what his life is going to amount to. Because I had hopes for him to at least have some small little following with his music, you know, and kind of people, you know, appreciating that he served his time and he's gotten out and he's just kind of living a peaceful life. Like I liked that idea. That was a romantic idea that, you know, in the broader sense of the word romantic, that I liked. And then now this, and it's like, oh man, fuck Christ, dude. Yeah, you know, fuck off, dude. I mean, honestly, if this is what he's doing, he can, I don't know, go make some other attempts on presidents and see what happens. That's probably the best thing that can happen for him. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, going back to fictional Nazis. Stevel. I'm convinced that that's who we're seeing in the theater. I mean, in the trailer. When you think about it, and then look at these two images here, he gets the hammer and he looks at it. He smiles. Is he smiling at his friend Thor? Is he like, oh, I'm so happy to see you, Thor? I don't think so. That's not what that smile says. If you've seen Chris Evans in basically anything else he's been in besides Captain America stuff, he is incredibly, incredibly talented at being a smarmy evil fucker. Like sinister and yet charming at the same time. Look at Knives Out, for example, is a very good example. He's just very good at it. And I think that's exactly what's happening here. I think he's smiling because he wasn't sure if he would be able to hold the hammer. He didn't know for sure. Something has changed with him. And I'm not saying this, I don't believe that this is even necessarily a variant. I think this might be our Captain America who has been corrupted. Okay. So whenever I say that, if you're expecting this movie to be like basically the same thing as what we've had before, to a certain degree, sure, it's going to end on a big surprising bummer, much like the snap in Infinity War. But it's going to be, I think it's going to be more personal than that. I think it's going to be more like fucked up than that. I think what we're going to see is Doom, who at this point will have been revealed to resemble somebody we know. It's going to be Stevel, who I think is going to turn on the heroes at a certain point, probably immediately after that one sequence we've seen, the action sequence where he's kind of, you know, fighting Doom with him or whatever. I think maybe sometime right after that, he's going to, yeah. I think that after that takes place, that's when Thor is going to go see perhaps the younger Avengers folks. And that's who he's maybe talking to, because at that point, the Fantastic Four, all the other Avengers and everybody, X-Men, they've all been kind of done away with to some degree. And I think Thor's going to barely fucking escape. And that's why he's going to be shitting his and everybody else's pants. Because it's not that he got defeated by Doom. It's that they got defeated by Doom and Steve Rogers, perhaps Peter Parker, almost certainly Wanda Maximoff. Yeah, I think that's going to be what happens. That they're going to be beaten by people that they generally see as friends or colleagues and other heroes. Doctor Strange, of course, by the way, he'll be there too, on the side of Doom. So I think that's the Doom that we're going to really experience in that movie. I think that they're doing, I think they're doing Dark Avengers of some kind of thing. And the thing is I think that some of them are going to not be necessarily evil. They're just going to be misguided. I think that Doom is going to, it's kind of been stated. I don't know if it's officially been stated, but the word is that Doom's going to have some kind of a cult around him, which is, there's examples of that kind of in the comics, especially in the lead up to Secret Wars. Yep. I think that's probably about what we're looking at. We're going to see that. And that honestly makes me pretty excited. We're going to have to see the younger folks kind of go up against their heroes and the people they looked up to. And it's going to be terrifying. And it's going to probably be pretty brutal. Might get some deaths. I don't know. I mean, but the thing is, from phase 4 and phase 5, it's not like there was. So what do you mean by that? What was here from, I mean, they are going to be, that's what I just explained that. I think that the young Avengers, I'm talking Hawkeye, Kate Hawkeye, the Maximoff twins, they've all been set up, and I think that it would be pretty silly of them to try to use them in the marketing here. I think they're trying to get people excited into this. I don't think they're giving up on these characters, is what I'm saying. I don't think that they're saying, oh, well, everybody didn't like these characters enough to continue on following their stories, so we just got to throw them out the fucking window. No, they're just going to get us on board by bringing in the older guys. And yeah. I mean, it won't be that weird because I don't really want to see teenagers, doing this shit anyway. Many of them in the comics are not teenagers. Some of them are, but not all of them. Mid to late 20s as an actor's age is not the same thing as an age of a character. So yeah, there you go. I'm pretty confident She-Hulk is definitely going to return. If the leaks are to be believed, which I think these in particular are, this part of it, because the art that was leaked and then they tried to claim it wasn't official art, but it was. What we're going to see in Secret Wars is Battle World, where it's going to be carved up just like Battle World was in the comics. We're going to have sections that Doom has created for different purposes. So you're going to have a Hulk thing, or maybe that's going to be the entirety of Battle World. I'm not sure. Basically, there's going to be a lot of Hulks, and there's going to be kind of a brain fart. That's never, that's been known since before they yes, the Russo brothers said when Endgame came out that they would not come back unless they were adapting Secret Wars 2015. So that's just been known for a long time that that's what it's going to be. I know Morgan feels that way as well. I just don't think it's as compelling a narrative. I think that it is just not as rich with stuff you can do with it, right? In my opinion. But the good thing about that is that Secret Wars 2015 literally couldn't exist without the original. It is basically the same structure of the story with some of the inciting mechanisms, narrative mechanisms, a little bit different. So obviously Doom is the one who creates Battle World in the 2015 one. But if I were to describe to you a comic book crossover event called Secret Wars, where all of the heroes and villains are transported to a new world called Battle World, and they eventually have to fight Dr. Doom to return things to normal. Which one am I talking about? You couldn't tell me because I'm talking about both of them. That describes both of them. It's just the details that are different. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm getting more excited about it, honestly. And here's the thing is either me or Scott here
who are excited.
either me or him are going to look like fools come Christmas time. And I, you know, I do believe it's probably going to be him. I think that his cynical approach to this is way unnecessary, except from the perspective of it gets a better click-through rate. And I told him that if you go find this video on YouTube, you can look in the comments and see that I literally said, hey man, I think that you're being a little bit cynical about this. And I don't understand why, but you've kind of grown increasingly more cynical with your takes about Marvel Cinematic Universe over the years. And the only thing I can figure is it must be better for your click-through rate. For those that aren't aware, click-through rate is on YouTube the amount of times that people click on your video whenever they see it on like listed in their feed. And it's just common knowledge that a more negative, cynical take on something is going to be more clickable by and large than something, you know, if somebody's saying, I'm so excited about this, it's going to be great. Your people are more likely, even if you are looking forward to it, you're more likely to click on a video of somebody saying that they think it's going to suck. In generally speaking. Right. No teaser reveals the plot. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about Dune 3 because I love the hero's journey. I just want to tell you guys how much I love the hero's journey as like the standard for how a story needs to be told, especially, you know, fantasy, science fiction. And, you know, seeing Paul Atreides, his arc as a hero, ultimately eventually becoming, and I haven't read the books or anything. It's just obviously that's what's going to happen. He's going to become the hero. He's going to save the day. He's going to defeat the Emperor, which is weird because he kind of already did that in the second one. So I don't know. But I mean, and he's also kind of acting kind of weird, like a little bit, I don't want to say sinister in the second one, but then this trailer for this new one, he's looking kind of, I don't know. There's something going on there. Maybe it's kind of like with Steve Rogers and it's like he's, you know, they're going to fake us out. I don't know. I can't wait to see him win the day and be the hero at the end of Doom Messiah. Okay. Yeah, no. I know it has to be. Anybody that's not aware, that's a ongoing joke that I do just for my own sake. If anybody else finds it amusing, then I hope so. I'm glad, but I think it's funny to pretend to be the guy that doesn't know how the Dune series works out. Because I didn't for a long time. I did kind of assume that it was going to, you know, play out like any, you know, most other science fiction epics. And then I learned that, wait a second, oh, he's going to be responsible for, yikes. Okie dokie, yeah. And then you learn about what the story is truly. What was it Herbert was trying to tell us, and it's especially timely message, I think. But it's one that's actually timeless. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to being devastated. I think that, you know, that's what we're setting up for, is to be fucking just like wiped out with our any kind of optimism of, you know, because we've all been raised on these stories. Star Wars, you know, biggest example, but it's by far not the only one, of, you know, the hero, the hero of the day, to quote Metallica. And it's, I think it is time that society starts breaking that down as something that we take for granted as a truism, right? Because I think we can see every day now what it leads to. When you have people that are just ready to hang all their hopes, all of the future on one person. And I'm not saying that the left is incapable of doing so. We I think are generally better about not doing that. But, you know, there's still a little bit of that goes on. Yeah, we just have to start breaking that shit down. Those types of I don't know if it was intentional messaging whenever they started putting that stuff into movies. I don't know if the hero's journey was some kind of psyop, maybe, but nonetheless, can't wait to see Paul become the hero and save the galaxy, save the universe, save everybody. He's not going to kill anybody. He's not going to be responsible for any genocides. He's going to be happy. It's going to be really cool. All right. So, yeah. One of us is going to be wrong here. One of us is going to be right come December. I think that I'm going to be more right than I am wrong. It's just a strong feeling. But here's where I'm going to pivot over to brand new day. Okay. So for the longest time, I rejected the idea that this was going to be, Sadie Sink was going to be playing Jean Grey. I thought that's stupid. And then especially once people started using the fact that, oh, well, what other character does this that they're showing in the trailer, a character that can take over people's minds or whatever, and make them do their bidding, who the fuck else would that be besides Jean Grey, right? And that's somewhat of a decent argument, but there's many characters that could do that. So I kind of just still didn't get why you're zeroing in on Jean Grey. Oh, because she's got red hair. I see. And so I still didn't want to accept that until I saw more direct evidence of that. But then, as time has gone on, and especially after I did some thinking about it today, it's pretty obvious to me who the villain actually is of Brand New Day. You guys ready for this? It's not Spider-Woman. So they have been kind of coy, kind of slyly insinuating that Jean Grey is it with some of these teasers they've been doing and having Sadie Sink not reveal who she is. There's been some stuff. And so I think that Sony and Marvel's definitely playing into it. And they want us to be skeptical of Jean Grey and that maybe she is the villain. We even talked about the other day that the only thing that might make sense there is if she's actually Madeline Pryor. That could be what it is, but it's not what it is. Here's what it is. I'm confident. Okay. Mark my fucking words. Mark my fucking words. Sadie Sink is playing Jean Grey. Okay. And now I believe that's an awesome choice. Let me explain why. So they are trying to, this is, by the way, this movie is going to be the first officially in the mutant saga, apparently, or whatever they're calling it. Okay. Fine. That's, if you want to call it that, whatever. So the mutant saga. Interesting. Why would they introduce Jean Grey in a movie about Spider-Man? It's not Shadow King. It's not Shadow King. I'm about to tell you who it is. About to tell you. Because for one, they need to intertwine the mutants with this world that's already established. A good way to do that is to take a pretty well-known character and slap her in the center of a plot of a Spider-Man movie, right? Because that's a New York hero. She's a New York character. There you go. You've got a mutant, well-established, one movie in. Okay, but why is she? Why? What purpose does she serve? Well, she's going to be suspected of being the villain. That's why the Office of Damage Control and whatever other agency that's in it, that one guy, I forget his name, that he's only ever appeared in a couple of X-Men comics, but he's a prominent character in this movie. That's another reason why this makes sense. So she is going to be suspected of being behind everything, but it's controlling people's minds and stuff. What does that do? That in the first appearance, full appearance of like a well-known mutant in Marvel Cinematic Universe, you've got a witch hunt for this mutant with these powers. She's not going to be responsible for it, though. She's not going to be the villain. There is one Spider-Man villain who has powers that I think they maybe had to tweak them a little bit. Barely, but it makes so much sense. So much sense. I'll pull up an image here. Okay, so when you think about, who's been prominent characters that have been featured in Spider-Man movies and other media, right? I think with this one, they wanted to give us something we hadn't seen before, a character that we've not seen in movies. However, he was featured prominently in Spider-Man 2, the video game. Mr. Negative. That's the villain. I promise you, it's fucking Mr. Negative. I promise you. If I'm wrong, I don't know. I'll eat a turd from Gordy's litter box. So what are Mr. Negative's powers? And honestly, it's surprising that we haven't kind of just all rallied around this as the solution. Let me see. Mr. Negative possesses the ability to generate and manipulate both dark force and light force energies, which manifests as striking black and white photographic negative. His primary powers include corrupting touch. By touching someone, he can invert their moral compass, brainwashing them to serve his criminal empire while amplifying their physical aggression. Okay. you know, it's barely even different from what we're seeing happen in the trailers. The only way it's different is that it seems like he is actually putting his consciousness in to these people, maybe, or for all we know, they could be deceiving us with what's being said in the trailer. But I doubt it. I think that they're just they've tweaked his powers, maybe, and they're saying that in this version, he doesn't just invert their moral compass. He can actually kind of influence them in real time, like he's playing them like a video game character. Okay, that's if I'm wrong, I will do a dramatic reading of Isom on stream if I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'll do a dramatic reading of Isom number 1 and 2. No. This is what it is. It's just what it is. That's the reason why we're going to have Spider-Man fighting the Hulk. That's the reason we're going to have some problems with Punisher, at least at one point in the movie. I think that there's going to be some fighting going on there. You know, so you think about Punisher and Hulk, two characters that technically are, you know, especially seems like the end of Punisher's little one-shot things sets him up to try to be a more heroic character, right? So that's what we presume he's trying to do here. You got a couple of heroes, him and Hulk, but they both have their dark side. They both have taken some lives, and you catch them on a bad day and they can really fuck shit up. Those are the perfect type of characters to be influenced by Mr. Negative. Just makes all the sense in the world, right? And then let's see. And look, this is another one that's like, let me make sure I got my facts right here. Okay. Yeah, I was pretty sure. Like I was like, isn't Dustin Daniel Cretton directing this? I was pretty sure. Like I couldn't remember if he dropped out of this or if he dropped out of something else or whatever, but it was something else he was doing originally. I think he was maybe doing the Kang Dynasty. Is that right? Then yeah, pretty sure that's what it was. And look, you know, it's a weird one to say, but I think that maybe that would be, you know, he's probably got some personal stake in seeing some Asian representation in popular media. Why not? All for it. So, you know, maybe make some sense that in order to not have it done by some white director guy that's going to like do a bunch of tropes and stuff like that, that it could be actually somebody that's going to take more care to, you know, even though the guy's a villain, Mr. Negative. Yeah, just throwing it out there. Nice. That's pretty awesome. I mean, yeah. So then you think about, for example, what's going on with Peter? Is the dark eyes thing that happens to him the same thing as what's happening with his organic webbing and stuff like that? Don't know. I was almost ready to say that this was a symbiote movie. I might have even said that I think it is. But after giving a little bit more thought, I don't think so. I think that's something they maybe wanted to throw us off with. They've put a lot of effort into spinning out enough different angles of this that would, you know, keep us kind of guessing. So, yep, that's my theories on that. I think that is it's Mr. Negative. Jean Grey is in the movie. I think that Sadie Sink is Jean Grey. I think that that's actually a good idea because, and the thing that changed my mind on that is realizing that allows them to have a mutant witch hunt subplot in a Spider-Man movie. So by the time we even get the X-Men movie, it's already set up. The whole idea, the dynamic with mutants and stuff, it's already there. We already know that it doesn't take much for the public to turn on some mutant that somebody has decided. Perhaps J. Jonah Jameson is doing some propaganda pieces on. We don't know. Probably so. Yeah, that's what I think. And then also back to Doomsday. I believe that is Stevel. I believe whatever the way that it comes about, I think it makes the most sense that some of the, I forget exactly how much they said they're filming to add to Endgame. I would assume now that some of that, at least a scene or something, is going to be Steve going back to Vormir to put the Soul Stone back. Because for one thing, how do you even put the Soul Stone back? How do you do that? That's the one where it's like some kind of weird, fucking metaphysical thing where you jump off the thing or something, or then you wake up with the thing, or you sacrifice somebody on the thing and then you wake up in the soul world and you're holding a stone. How does that? What do you do to reverse that process? So I would imagine that Steve might get there and go, I don't know what the fuck to do here, man. And then, hey, you guy over there in the cloak, can you turn around so I can see your face and you tell me what it is I'm supposed to do here? And the guy turns around and he's like, oh, you're fucking Captain America. I'm the Red Skull, as you can see. And he's like, yeah, I know what you look like, man. You don't look quite like Hugo Weaving, but it's a pretty damn good, kind of adaptation that you're doing there. I forget the guy's name. He's very good. The guy that did this Red Skull in Infinity War Endgame. Here's some stuff that I thought was cool about the Odyssey.
Guillermo del Toro, many years, a monster is never just a monster.
I want you to imagine a scale, and let's call this the how the hell am I going to do this scale. Let's say the truck flip from Dark Knight's there. Let's say the hallway from Inception's there. Maybe Trinity Test is right here. The Cyclops scene, where does that fall in the how the hell am I going to do this?
Oh, scale? right at the top. I mean, that was a terrifying challenge for all of us.
Why is that?
Because I wanted to tell the story with a credible tone. My rule of thumb for everybody involved in the film was give them a reason to believe. As moviegoers, we want to see extraordinary things. We want to go to extraordinary places. So we need a reason to believe. And a lot of that is tone. And tone is technical. Tone is, okay, how do you photograph? We're going to real places. We're shooting real things as much as possible. We're on the deck of real boats in a real storm. We're doing all of this stuff. So suddenly you then moving into, and the Cyclops is the first pure fantasy element that comes into the film. So how do we give that some kind of reality? How are we going to do this? And we used every trick in the book. But the smartest thing I did is to call my friend Bill Irwin, who brought the robots to life in Interstellar. He puppeteered TARS and provided the voice. And I brought Bill in and said, okay, let's find this guy from the inside. We're going to use all these different techniques, everything from puppetry to animatronics to computer graphics, all of it. But we need a performer at the heart of it. But yeah, it's one of the most challenging things that I've been involved with.
I felt bad for him.
Well, I learned from my friend Guillermo del Toro of many years, a monster is never just a monster. And that's something he's brought to his own work in a major way. It's really about finding the individual behind that. And in that way, presenting a more real and a more threatening person. Cyclops is a real individual, it's a real character that Bill has been able to create with everybody else involved in the film.
That's pretty cool and all. I wish they would have shown him using his optic blast once. I don't know why they didn't. It's weird. But no, I really have realized lately watching some clips with it. I've seen, by the way, I've seen the trailer for the Odyssey only through the video that Internet Comment Etiquette did. That's the only time I've watched the trailer, any trailer for the Odyssey. And that's not because I was not looking forward to it or whatever. It was just it's actually because I knew I wouldn't be able to afford to go to the theater and see it most likely. And so I wanted to avoid getting too hyped about it. Right. And so, yeah, everything I've seen about it, or most of what I've seen about it, is clips like this, where he's talking about that kind of thing. And I'm realizing I really like Christopher Nolan. I didn't realize he's just such a, oddly kind of down to earth, but about his process, you know what I mean? And he's very clearly explained stuff, and he clearly, you know, the fact that he talks about two different creators that he learned from in this clip is pretty great. You know, we need more of that. You know, people want to praise Nolan as being some kind of auteur or whatever, and it's like, okay, he knows how to collect the right people to make cool shit happen. Is really what any big movie director that is beloved, that's the best thing you can say about him. That's not to say it's a small thing, it's a big thing, but yeah, auteur theory is for fucking bitches. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I did hear from one review that there is one moment they found it is like so jarring, because like, why didn't they just do that, take a little bit more time with that? Something about a guy or something that's going on in a fight on the ship. Like, I know that they filmed all this stuff on like real ships for the most part, so that's pretty cool. But like something about a CGI character or something that looks pretty CGI because he's only on screen for like a split second, and yeah. Well, I mean, that's a weird thing to get hung up on, considering all of it's fiction. It's all fiction. None of that stuff happened. So just, and besides, there's a trope that probably goes back to the Odyssey, but it's something that, you know, you see it in Game of Thrones, that winter is coming. There's like this general, you know, in fantasy media often, where it's like there's a tone. It's just a narrative thing. It's a narrative thing. It gives people, you know, for one thing, you get a cool line to say, you get the right person to say, storm's coming, Annie, or whatever. And then, you know, and maybe it's just a psych, maybe learning from their elders, perhaps, that's after a long enough age of peace and prosperity or something, whatever, that there's a dark age coming. Who knows? Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, the New York Post is just straight up rag bullshit. Oh, there you go. Ask a question, get an answer with Bob of the old ways. What else we got here? I'm starting to think that these ICE people, these guys that are working for ICE, are kind of pieces of shit. Check this out.
There is just plastic on this plate. There's genuinely nothing you can see. There's a cord.
Get away from my vehicle. Get away from my vehicle.
I am getting away.
Get away.
Get away. I am getting away.
Get away.
He just tried to trip me.
Get away.
I'm backing up. I am backing up.
Get away.
I am actively backing up. He stepped on my foot, so I tripped, and had his hand on his taser or gun.
What a piece of shit. Yeah. Healthiest ICE guy. he won the challenge, you know. And here's a little thing about, in case you wonder, are all fascists, like especially the most disgusting craven fascists, are they really just slimy pussies underneath? Is it all of them that are like that? Yes, it is, especially this one.
Know about Stephen Miller, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this. Last September, my neighbors and I organized a protest outside of his house in Arlington.
I didn't even realize this was a video that was by that one, the Hawks podcast. Like, fuck that guy, man. I don't like that guy. I used to kind of be neutral on him, but I would see him. He'd always repost videos that I think are good. And he's just, his fucking stupid head is there in the fucking corner, bobbing. Look, check this out. And it's like, just fucking get out of the video, dude. Get out of the video, because every single time it's somebody saying something worth hearing for the most part. And you're just there, like, taking some credit with your fucking fat head. All right.
Arlington, Virginia. We got a bunch of chalk and spent a fun afternoon writing things like, immigrants are people, and violence is not the answer. That same day, his wife Katie went on X and said we were terrorizing their family. Not even a month later, the Millers fled the neighborhood, putting their house on the market for $3.75 million, and later found refuge on a nearby military base, where they've been living rent-free, getting gas tax-free, and buying discounted groceries at the commissary. here's where it really gets wild. Stephen and Katie had the Virginia police and the FBI investigate a fellow protester who passed out flyers about Stephen a few days before. My 66-year-old neighbor, Barbara. She's a retired peace studies professor, and according to Stephen Miller, Barbara's also the face of left-wing violence and domestic terrorism. The Arlington prosecutor took one look at the evidence and dropped it. She refused to criminalize a peaceful protest. You know who didn't like that? My old neighbor, Stephen Miller. He called in a favor from his buddy, Representative Jim Jordan, who dragged the prosecutor into a secret deposition, demanded the prosecutor admit that Barbara broke the law by exercising her free speech, and that the flyers and chalk messages were threats against the Millers. The prosecutor told Jim Jordan to go take a hike. The moral of the story is that Stephen Miller's a terrible, terrible neighbor, and he's on a mission to take away all of our First Amendment rights, starting with Barbara. But she's exactly who America needs right now. So get some chalk this weekend, write what you believe, and follow Friends of USA, because we're just getting started.
You can rewind the stream and go check it out. But I mean, essentially, the Steve Rogers in the trailer for Doomsday is evil Captain America, and the hidden villain that they haven't revealed yet, that is controlling people's minds, is Mr. Negative. And that Jean Grey is in Spider-Man Brand New Day, and she's going to be used as the kind of scapegoat. There's going to be a bit of a witch hunt about her. Maybe Peter's going to have to try and protect her. Maybe there's a romantic interest there. That'd be kind of an interesting wrinkle, right? But yeah, so those are my theories. Also, Lindsey Graham, before he passed away, God rest her soul, was totally into hooking up with trans sex workers.
Exclusive sit down that anyone's given about Lindsey Graham.
I think so.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
We're coming on the air with breaking news.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham
from the state of South Carolina has died at the age of 71.
Death nulls an NDA, right? Did you sign an NDA?
I did not sign an NDA. I said hello, and the only thing this person said was, if you move forward with your story, watch your back.
Oh my God.
I'm like, are they gonna shoot the plane down? Like, what the hell?
So they were clearly trying to silence people that are wanting to speak out about it.
People want to sit there and say, oh, Lindsay was gay, Lindsay was gay. No, Lindsay liked dick. She was a bottom. Sorry for being so vulgar. She was a hungry fiend.
So, the ladybugs of it all. For decades, Lindsey Graham was one of the country's most powerful politicians, and one of the politicians who spent years fighting against LGBTQ plus rights.
And I'm not going to accept for one moment that if you believe traditional marriage is the way America ought to be, that you're somehow some inferior person.
What I want to do is protect the religious liberties of those who believe that opposing same-sex marriage is part of their faith. In my state, we're not going to change the traditional definition of marriage. I think that's just best for society.
But one thing didn't die with him: the rumors.
Hey, Lindsay, why don't you just admit that you're gay and then people won't blackmail you anymore?
In the days following his death, more people have begun speaking publicly about their alleged experiences.
Senator Lindsey Graham was one of my clients. This transphobic, homophobic man can rot in hell.
And today, in an exclusive interview, I sit down with Taylor Snyder, an entrepreneur and sex worker who said that Lindsey Graham was one of her clients, to hear her story in her own words. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on everything you've built.
Thank you. No, it's been a long journey, so I'm really happy that we're here now. So it's been like an uphill battle for like 4 years, but everything good did not come easy.
It's called traveling.
Yeah, I mean, it's open secret. It's also just kind of a combination of rumors as well as just judgment call. You know what I mean? About like the idea that there is a Republican senator that has never been married and doesn't have a family at all. You know, is it's crazy that he ever even, not to say that look, to be clear, I don't give a shit. I think senators should be able to not have families, not have kids, be gay, straight, whatever, doesn't matter, as long as they're, you know, good senators, right? But a Republican, it's just bizarre to me that the Republican ever got elected without being married, even just married. You know what I mean? And then to be 71 years old and apparently never even had a serious partner that anybody could tell. You know, and then, you know, yeah, there's just a bit of a judgment call that gets made about that. And it's like, I never gave a shit about Lindsey Graham in that regard, except for the hypocrisy of it. I would have been fucking. It would have been awesome if Lindsey Graham would have just come out and been like, "Yeah, I'm totally into dick, y'all," and I, like, I mean, so apparently he wasn't necessarily like, I don't know. I don't know how you define this. I don't want to get into it because I don't know the terminology with this, but like, he was very much into trans women with dicks. So he was into that girl dick, which look, might be maybe the most relatable thing about him. I don't know. Yeah, well, because you grow up in a context of he was a chaser. Okay, yeah, that's true. I guess that's what you call him, right? But I mean, you grow up in a context where you're if you haven't ever experienced like a family all around you and everybody in your community being a bigot, it's pretty wild. It's a pretty wild thing to be in. I grew up in that shit. It had its negative effects on me that I had to work out. Probably still have to work some stuff out. I don't know. But yeah, it can be pretty influential just because to buck that kind of attitude whenever it's everybody around you is to make your life a living hell. And they will make it a living hell. They will, in many cases, make you regret, going against that. But to answer your question, you asked a little bit here, go back to this. That was Harrison. Okay, so my one question, would Hydra Cap still be worthy to hold Mjolnir? Well, there is a comic book answer to that, and it is this. Seemingly. There's two parts to this answer, I'll say that. Part 1 happened in Secret Empire, number 1. When it was revealed, it had been revealed at this point that he had been taken over, or he was now a Hydra agent, or presumably had always been a Hydra agent, was the way it was presented. Because spoiler alert, Red Skull used the Cosmic Cube to rewrite reality, and so that whenever he was a little kid, they started grooming him after his father had passed away back in the day, and they essentially, groomed him to be a little Hydra guy, and eventually, he played the part of the American soldier up until even through getting Captain America's super soldier serum and becoming Captain America, and then being frozen and all that stuff. And then eventually he was unfrozen. And after that was whenever they could really start enacting their plan that they'd been wanting to do for all that time. And to, and it pretty bad time for Marvel Universe for a little while. But as it says here, they were worthy. But why is that? Why is that? Because now you think, like, how could you have been worthy of Thor's hammer if being worthy, it means virtuous, good, positive things, right? Like, you think about Thor in the first Thor movie. What did he have to do to get the hammer? He had to stop being selfish. He had to get out of his own ass, basically. He had to step up and recognize, like, I have power and I need to use that to protect people. And as soon as he did that, he got the hammer back, right? So that was in Secret Empire number 1. In Secret Empire number 10, though, you had the original Captain America being essentially reborn out of the Cosmic Cube, confronting Stevel, as you came to be known. And when Stevel tried to grab the hammer again after he'd been using it, the enchantment that was on the hammer, which traditionally said, whoever holds this hammer, if he is worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. Hydra also changed that, and that was not revealed to us at the beginning. It was not revealed that they had also changed that along with Captain America himself, but it had changed it to say they will hold the power of Hydra or whatever the fuck it was. So it wasn't even Thor's power technically that he was harnessing. But whenever that Cosmic Cube was broken and that the spell or whatever was broken about it, long story short, it has to do with a little girl that was an embodiment of Cosmic Cube, blah, blah. And then there was a guy that vomited up a Cosmic Cube. It was kind of weird. Yeah. That's true. That is true. But the thing is that it has to be, if he's going to be on the side of doom, if that's the case, it cannot be Steve Rogers, because that goes against everything. I will revolt if they literally try and tell me that Steve Rogers, as we know him, he's not corrupted or anything. He just decided, hey, look, we have to just destroy some planets to save our planet. That literally goes against what he was about in Infinity War and Civil War. And like he's explicitly stated many times, we don't trade lives, you know? And that's, yeah, it would have to be that he's corrupted if he's going to take that side of it. Yes, there was a little girl named Kobik. Yes. I hate when I get a tummy ache. Was that guy's name? Is that his hero name, Tommy Ache? It's like, Nick Spencer, you know, I'm a defender of Secret Empire, but like, that was a weird choice, man. Weird choice. And then I'll go ahead and reveal this final part of the sequence here where, so he can't pick it up. Steve can. He's like, oh man. And then you see a red gloved hand say, here, let me try. And honestly, this is one of my favorite moments in comic books, period. Just because, I mean, look at this shit. Good stuff. Good stuff. So that answers the question that yes, technically he can. He has lifted the hammer, but the hammer itself was altered on a, you know, reality level in order for that to happen. It was one of those things where a lot of people think that they changed the storyline. Yes. People think they changed the storyline based on the initial reaction to the story. I don't necessarily think there's any evidence of that. I think that Marvel, in terms of marketing, said some dumb shit, as they've done many times in the past when it comes to marketing stuff. Because in comic book marketing, you have to give readers a reason why this one is something you should pay attention to, especially once readers know that there's a kind of a cycle in terms of, you know, the timeline, and like eventually more or less the status quo is going to kind of get returned to the status quo. So whenever you present something like Captain America is evil, he's Hydra, and you're like, oh, okay, so that'll be, so what, he's been brainwashed or something? And then the Marvel marketing is like, no, he's always been Hydra since he was a child. And they tell people that, and they're like, what? Oh no, because they feel deceived, rightfully so. But you know, it is, and they even said, I think they specifically shut down the idea that somebody had done something with reality or whatever. So like that's where they fuck up with stuff like that, is that somebody will guess it, and they're like, no, that's not what it, we're not doing that. It's not a cosmic cube. What are you talking about, cosmic cube, man? You know what I mean? And then it turns out, yes, it was, I mean, a cosmic cube child. Yeah. And this is what I get for going back and forth on topics, huh? Jesus Christ. Yeah, I am kind of Cuber. I never met her. I mean, look, the most unrealistic thing about Secret Empire, now that I think about it, was that the Red Skull and Hydra had this little girl, and all they did to her was make her, you know, corrupt Steve Rogers and stuff like that. You know, if this was real fascists, what they'd be doing. I hate to say it, man. I hate to say it. So very unrealistic. F+ grade on that story because of that. All right.
Right? It's the Studio TCG. My bag brand is Traveling Career Girl, so that's like the bags. Here in the studio, so we do product development, manufacturing, design. We work with other creatives, entrepreneurs, brands, businesses, and we make their products, or we'll design stuff for them. Or let's say like another brand has like too much work that they have on their plate.
And that's, I mean, presuming that is what it's being described as, and it's not like some kind of shady stuff going on behind the scenes. It's kind of a cool service business, right? offer?
They can send over their work and we can help them finish it too.
One of my favorite things about sex workers is you guys have this drive and this entrepreneurship about you. You have that business and you also have this business, and they both seem to be thriving.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was in sex work for a long time. I would say at least like 15, 16 years. So, and you know, still dabble with it here and there. At a certain point, it's like, you know, I'm 35 years old, so like
I got a question. I want you to somebody fill me in on what you think Trump was going to say in this clip I'm about to show you. Right here.
7 years they've been tapping people along, presidents. Every president got tapped along, didn't do anything, and they became more and more powerful. This should have been done 47 years ago. Shouldn't have been allowed to start. But Clinton let him go, and Bush let him go. Everybody let him go, and Obama was the worst of all because Obama actually went to their side. Obama, because, you know, he's a... Well, let's not say. Let's leave that for another time. He was terrible, and he allowed Iran to. But he gave them 1.7 billion in cash, in green cash.
What do y'all think he was gonna say there? What is he suggesting? Give me your answers in chat. Moving on. Don't get yourself banned, though. Yep, there you go. Thank you. Well, you know, after watching it the second time, I think Muslim might have been what he was, because he did used to say that. It's tempting to think that he might have, because he definitely would, if he thought he could get away with it without hearing it every day forever. He would say the N-word. He absolutely has called Obama that in private many times, I'm sure. But I think in that context, what he was saying was that he went to their side, as in, you know, the Muslims, because that's how he views this this war on Iran, by the way. It's definitely how Pete Hegseth views it. But okay, and then I got this one last thing here I wanted to look at. Well, really a couple of things, but like what's the deal with liberals, man? What's the deal with these motherfuckers? Like, okay, so this is from The Hill, the news organization, I guess. The title of this video from Rising, actually, it's from Rising, which is The Hill, I believe, is Socialists of America, Democratic Socialists of America exposed in crazy Fox News interview. What? I have not watched this yet. I just saw the title and was like, is this, it's either satirical or they're just, it's going to be really cringe.
Tell you who they are, you believe them. The Democratic Socialists of America are doing just that, telling us exactly who they are and what they believe in. They believe in full-on communism, the mass confiscation of your hard-earned money in order to fund their radical vision for society. Sadly, it's beginning to feel inevitable that the Democratic Party will succumb to socialism's deadly influences. I hate to see it. Son Piker just gave a speech at a gathering of the National College Democrats organization, which is affiliated with the DNC. By the way, he looked the part of communist dictator. Insane wardrobe choices, but I digress. Representative Steve Cohen, an extremely progressive Dem, says he quit the Congressional Progressive Caucus because most of their leaders are socialists. He's admitting it. Meanwhile, James Carville said...
So, you know, what I find fun is whenever they start from the presumption that everybody watching hears the word socialist and goes, oh, fuck, they're evil. You know, they're just like, the assumption is that they already agree. We're not going to give you any reasons why. I mean, maybe they go on to give some very valid reasons. I don't know. I haven't seen this. But so far, all he's been like, he's just used the trigger word.
Recently, he doesn't think AOC could possibly get the Dem nomination for president in 2028. And I think that might be true, but only because she isn't far left enough for these people. And who are these people? Well, let's take a closer look. How about starting with this deeply insightful interview on Fox News? Kudos to Martha McCallum for doing it with Gustavo.
Imagine giving kudos to Fox News for anything. You know, I mean, even a centrist that like this person is clearly a fucking tool of capitalism. You know, and maybe even just a conservative himself, it seems like I think they are overestimating how much this anti-leftist, anti-socialist, brain poison is going to work. It's going to work on some people for sure, but like, wow.
Gordillo, who co-chairs the New York City DSA. Gordillo's family, by the way, came to the U.S. after escaping Peru during the Terror of the Shining Path, a far-left Marxist, Leninist, and Maoist terrorist group known for its excessive violence and brutality. One would hope that having had families survive and flee from leftist violence would make you opposed to exporting it.
So, like, the fucking thing that these people operate on is the idea that communism, is just as bad as fascism. Of course, fascists won't say that generally, but they will kind of appeal to it. I think Morgan's here to help me on this regard. But the thing that they try to do is try to say, or suggest or imply or whatever. They will hold up fascism as like an inherently evil ideology that kills people and authoritarian and all that, which is true. And then they'll say communism in the same breath in some cases and present that as if, for one thing, as if that's what we're talking about. We're not. We're talking about not even socialism. We're talking about democratic socialism, which is just, more democracy, essentially, is the way that I think is the best way to present it. It's just more actual democracy compared to, oh shit, Morgan's on a second time. Are you able to bring yourself on, or I don't know if you wanted to come on, Morgan, or there we go. You here? You there? No, Morgan. Okay. So the thing is, though, I'm sure many of you realize this. Fascism, there is only one outcome to fascism. There just is. And that's, leaving it alone on its own merits, letting it play out the way that it chooses to play itself out, the way that people that extol the virtues of, or lack of virtues of fascism, that it results in nothing but, it's just documented. It's clear, obvious, happens over and over again every single time. That's that type of authoritarianism. Now, communism has been, and it's fucked up that we even have to play the, well, it's not communism, but I can do it. Look, communism is not something I advocate for. It's not something I even fully believe is a workable thing. I don't know. I don't believe so. I haven't seen a lot of that, but I also know the history of interventionism in socialist and communist nations by capitalist nations led by primarily us. And, it's just so fucking disingenuous. And it's to the point where I believe that anybody that's doing that and trying to appeal to that thinks you're an idiot. They think you're so stupid that you'll never question the narrative that worked for them for so long. Didn't work, huh? That sucks. What happened? Microphone bite the dust? But anyway, the end result of democratic socialism is nothing even close to authoritarianism. Any political movement or ideology can be co-opted and brought to an authoritarian end result. Yes. That's just something that we should all be aware of and look out for those things. You know what I mean? Prevent them from happening. Create, mechanisms within the structures of power that don't allow that to go that far. For instance, it'd be nice if we had some right now, but we apparently we're basing this whole, neoliberal democracy thing on the fucking honor method, honor system. Weird. Turns out if you don't have any honor, you can just fucking do whatever you want. Anyways,
Bringing it into your new country, but alas.
This is not Newsmax, though. I want you to understand, this is not Newsmax. This is The Hill. This is I don't know how popular they are. Probably like 4th or 5th or something. I don't know if they're more popular than Ms. Now or not, but they're seen as somewhat of a credible outlet, I believe.
Gordillo's different. In fact, he blames capitalism rather than the left.
The economic situation in South America and in Peru was in a really bad place. But I think that much of what we could say is responsible for that actually was the imposition of capitalism, and American imperialism in many cases is actually
objectively true historical facts. These are things that our own CIA has copped to. These are things that these are things that our own fucking spy networks and even many politicians and leaders have acknowledged. And I'm pretty sure, didn't Obama, man, what a different time whenever Obama actually got rid of the embargo and stuff on Cuba, right? Didn't he? And he kind of acknowledged in that moment that, like, yeah, we kind of played a pretty big role in fucking Cuba over. Didn't that happen? Pretty sure that happened. It's different from where we're at now with Cuba for sure, but it has been documented. It has been, it's part of history, and they want to rewrite that history, sure. But, over and over and over again, American intelligence, if you want, a weird word to call it, but imperialism is what it is, would create situations that would cause an economy to crash. It would install dictators rather than let democratically elected socialist leaders take power. So, yeah.
actually what brings immigrants to the U.S. coming out of Latin America. And
so they come here because they don't like the imposition of American imperialism in the country that they're in?
That's really fucking stupid, man. That's really fucking stupid. That is so fucking stupid. And of course, this fucking piece of shit right here, like, the conditions placed on those, global South nations and Central South America, the conditions that are placed due to effects that are caused by imperialist meddling and sanctions and whatnot, make that country, in many cases, presumably much shittier to live in than it is to live in America. Imagine that. America is causing, or at least prior to the current era anyway, they would cause other countries to be actively shittier states of disrepair due to their meddling because, they didn't want them to gain power. What is so fucking dishonest to act like, God damn, I fucking hate these Fox News pieces of shit. All right.
McCallum points out that makes absolutely no sense. Now, thankfully, it's not the case that all or even most immigrants want to bring socialism to our shores. Maybe Nile notwithstanding, but the exceptions like Gordillo are certainly responsible for negative perceptions about the impacts of changing demographics. Gordillo's contempt for private property and private business so thorough, he goes on to say he hopes government-run grocery stores do put mom and pop shops out of business. Listen to this.
Inspiration is great, but
okay, I did see a clip of this. Yeah, he just says, yeah, I hope they put.
Bodega owner, how would you feel if the government opened a big grocery store right next to your bodega?
So this is what they do. They pit, the common worker against the common worker. So something that would benefit everyone. They're going to say this isn't about these corporate chains of grocery stores. I'm going to look something up because I remember learning something about the chain of grocery stores in New York City that created a lot of the problem that they're needing to correct here. Let me look it up real quick. I don't want to let this fucking shit play anymore until I do. Yeah. Is anybody familiar with the grocery store scenario in New York City? I don't want to speak about something I'm not confident in here. I do remember hearing about it, learning about it, that essentially, whenever you have a chain of grocery stores, for one thing, they don't like to exist in certain neighborhoods. They don't like to, and then they will jack up prices, and whenever there's nothing but corporate owned grocery stores all around, there's no real competition with that. They'll jack up prices, or they'll have prices real low, and where you have no choice but to go there. And yeah, fuck a Best Buy, man. What? Are you kidding me? I thought she was his mom. I'm just kidding. I knew that. I knew they were married. But yeah, they pit the people who everyone stands to benefit generally. They pit them against each other. And now they're going to act like they give a shit about bodega owners. I mean, come on, Fox News. You know who fucking typically runs bodegas. Are you really going to stand here and act like you give a shit about what's in their interests? Come on, man. Fox News pretending to give a fuck about immigrants because they can, in this moment, use them rhetorically. Goddamn.
If one publicly owned grocery store that brings prices down in the neighborhood is enough to put someone out of business, then maybe they shouldn't have been in that business in the first place.
Oh, yeah. I mean, dude's got a point. That's a pretty good point, And since you're bringing up, I wasn't going to do this, but y'all brought it up, the Kyle and Crystal thing. I have this clip. I have this clip.
So it would appear that the plane was shot down. Can you tell us anything more from your military training of what sort of missile system that may have been coming from?
Well, you're a dumbass, aren't you?
I'm sorry, sir.
Crystal Ball's so stupid. Oh, she's
research. We're gonna crack that. We're gonna try. We're gonna do all the studies that we can. In fact, we're leaving right now. No, happy for them. That's that's pretty cool. I've always been a fan of Kyle. Even though I didn't watch him for several years, I did watch him back whenever his shit looked like it did in that first clip. I used to watch him, and then I kind of didn't watch him for a while, and then next thing you know, I'm checking him out again. I'm like, wait, he's doing what with who now? He's married to who? Oh my God. Did not see that coming. I doubt they did either, but yeah. Yeah. I mean, look. Shit can't trickle down, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just can't. We have to have, there needs to be the idea that we should let the people who own the means of production, distribution, cultivation, manufacture, whatever, all that they own it at every level, at every stage of this, that they should be the ones that get to decide what pricing is, and then just they're gonna keep the consumer in mind for sure. Yeah, when we know that's not how capitalism operates. We know that's not how, especially this version of capitalism, this fucking, profit over everything, no regulation, and for the most part, just like have to next quarter, you got to make more than you did last quarter. Next year, you got to make more than you did last year. No ifs, ands, or buts. Anything else is failure. Even just breaking even this year compared to last year is a failure when you run a business. So when that's the case, that they're just going to be finding ways to fucking cut corners. And the first thing that's going to go is, any kind of, well, first of all, they're going to cut worker wages. They're going to cut workers. They're going to be the first ones to get fucked over. And then the consumers. It's just the way it goes. It's happened long enough now. We've all seen it happen. We've all experienced it happening. If you haven't experienced it happening, you are rich, and you kind of just need to sit back and let us handle the shit. But he really is, man. I try to give a little leeway. He's kind of got a little bit cringe recently with the Plattner stuff, because he was walking a line. There's several videos out there now that are like basically saying that he's just this toxic, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, he was in a daily content cycle of supporting a candidate who, of course, these candidates are going to have everything thrown at them. It would be silly to think that you just have to take every single thing that gets thrown at one of these candidates as at face value and go, well, fuck, okay, I guess, you know, these people, this one person's saying this, so we have to just get rid of this guy now, because if that's the way we operated, we would never get more progressive candidates in office, never. So there needs to be some degree of skepticism and at least willingness to investigate. Now, it doesn't mean it needs to be like a brick wall of nope, I refuse to listen to anything. And I think that ultimately what happened with Plattner was the best outcome, clearly. Guy didn't need to be in office. He was, you know, at the very least, responsible, accountable for some shit that he had never, you know, addressed and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and he may have been more deceptive and shittier than we even realize. So, but yeah, I think it's a privilege I have as a straight white man to be able to say, yeah, Kyle was making the best choices he had, given the information he had, and he was being skeptical about these first claims because of the person who was making them. And I kind of understand that, but that is absolutely just a privilege I have as a white person. I understand that not everyone has that privilege. Not everyone can afford to make that kind of call, and that sucks. That, you know, but that's where we're at. Anyway, has he not been able to? Has he not? I mean, I think he has, right? I don't know if he's said he's wrong for the way that he kind of aggressively seemed to victim shame. You know what I'm saying? But he did do that at least one time that I saw. And I acknowledge I have not been watching him nearly as much. I've caught a couple of clips since then. I was working on, I have right here, I have a folder full of Kyle Kalinske clips of him saying fucking funny shit in every, you know, essentially every video. He says something like gargling balls from the back and stuff like that I find hilarious. And I was putting it all together in a compilation, and I stopped when all this shit popped off. I was just like, oh, okay. Kind of felt a little weird to continue working on that. So, yeah. Oh my days. Yeah, that's what kills me about Kyle is he will crash out with like some of the most obscene, you know, just like shit talking, and then he'll be like, oh my days, and he like sounds like fucking Hank McCoy or a grandmother or something, where he's like my word. Anyway, wait, what are we talking about here? Who's banana? Talk about my banana that way. Anyways, yep. You know, if Kyle runs for office one day, that would be, he would have to understand that it would be the entire campaign. He would be combating things that he said in the past. You know what I'm saying? Like, just nonstop. I mean, look at what they're doing with Son Piker, who's not even running for office. It'd be nuts. Seriously, it'd be nuts. On that note, in fact, let me read off a couple of these video titles that I have here. Don't raise my taxes. Billionaire Jeff Bezos pisses on us and tells us it's raining. That's the name of a Kyle video. Bill Maher and Stephen A. Smith suck putrid anus. That's a video title. Okay. Let's see. Bill Maher takes JD Vance to Slurp City, makes his toes curl. That's a title. Fetterman and Bill Maher slob Trump snob sloppy style. That is a video title. Joe Rogan spreads his cheeks for Epstein class billionaire criminal. Video title. Kristi Noem's husband wears big old fake titties and jacks off with sex workers. That's a video title. Trump defends the sucking of baby D's. I'm not going to say it because it's a weird phrase to say, but I mean, he literally does. We watched some of that, I think, on stream. He literally was doing that. Let's see. Trump looks like absolute death. Audibly sharts at G7 summit. Trump panics as nipple torture kink exposed in Epstein files. I mean, that's not even him being hyper, like, exaggeratory. That's just what it was. And then Trump shoots himself in the dick. Oh, and Zionist war pigs have a shit flinging tantrum over the Iran deal. That's all I got right there, I think. But man, that's some good ones. Some good ones. All right. Lots of sloppy knobs slobbing and stuff. It's pretty funny. It's funny terms, you know. Like, I mean, as someone who never truly got rid of that little part of my sense of humor that you know was tickled to death by Beavis and Butthead and stuff like that. It's nice to be able to see that aspect of my youth and you know, juvenile mentality represented in my old man interest in politics. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so on that note, is conservatism a personality disorder? Something I want to propose as get ready to get out of here.
Your piece, Conservatism, America's Personality Disorder. You start out talking about your experience as a police officer and in the prison system. Tell us about that and how that is kind of meta to America's larger personality disorder. On the line with us is Christopher Armitage, a journalist, criminal justice researcher, former law enforcement officer, veteran, author. The Existentialist Republic on Substack is his newsletter. carmitage.substack.com is the URL. C Armitage on cmarmitage.substack.com. C Armitage on Blue Sky. And Christopher, welcome back to the program. It's always great having you with us. You've got a bunch of cool stuff over on your website right now. And I just wanted to get very quickly, because I want to get into conservatism as America's personality disorder, which is a brilliant piece that you wrote. I want to talk about it in depth. But you also wrote a piece earlier in the week, or maybe it was last week, about how the headline is, "We are officially beginning the process to convene grand juries over Doge." And I was just wondering, have you actually hit the threshold for, you mentioned that there are 6 states where citizens, by petition by and large, can convene a grand jury and have all those powers of, a subpoena and everything else to go after Elon Musk and Doge and whatnot and find out what the hell happened here. Any forward progress on that?
Yeah, so that article was our cattle call to look for folks who live in the relevant jurisdictions, who are interested in volunteering. We want to make sure that we find folks who are residents in that area and, suffered because they have a social security number, are victims of the criminal actions of Doge that we have in the public record, even in court records. So we put out cattle call. We got tons of volunteers in those 6 states. We are now going to be equipping those people with the tools that they need to to gather signatures and convene that citizen grand jury and use, the attorneys generals. We reached out to all 50 states and had Existentialist Republic readers over the last 10 months file tons of police reports and contact their district attorneys, and those individuals have chosen not to act because they fear, I suspect they fear retribution, although there could be existing criminal cases that they're just not disclosing publicly, and I should definitely mention that. But that article got it started. We got volunteers, and we're going to be reaching out to folks and organizing.
That's great. And those states are Kansas, Nebraska, Nevada, New Mexico, North Dakota, and Oklahoma. And if you live in one of those states, get thee over to the Existentialist Republic on Substack. Christopher, your piece, Conservatism, America's Personality Disorder, you start out talking about your experience as a police officer and in the prison system. Tell us about that and how that is kind of meta to America's larger personality disorder.
Absolutely. So I did almost 10 years as U.S. Air Force military police, and at a certain point, I decided I'd try to become a corrections officer, and pay was great, great benefits, that sort of thing. So I entered that job, and I remember in the training, one of the things that they talked to us about was you're going to learn things here that are really horrific, even to share the stories of what happens in these facilities and what the people, what some of those people did would be traumatizing for others. So you got to keep that to yourself or among your coworkers. And once I get into the job, I learned that even, it was very different from being military police, that you were able to be openly conservative, but there were sort of closeted lefties. And over time, you'd find out who those folks were. And maybe if you worked with them, it'd come up. But, conversations around like trans folks who represent about 1% to 2% of the prison population, that we'd come up every single day, transphobia, that sort of thing. The Fox News playing in the day room, the inmates and the guards, largely conservative. The longer somebody was a guard, the longer the more likely they were to act just like the most hardened of the inmates. And so it was a really fascinating thing. And over the course of that year, I saw myself changing in some ways that I really didn't like, losing my sense of humor and just becoming, less trusting and that sort of thing. And so that impact on me really drove me once I left to explore the psychological side. And so I wrote Conservatism, America's Personality Disorder with retired clinical psychologist D. Carl Brown, PhD. Mm-hmm. And we looked into, this idea that there's an empathy deficit, just like the incarcerated populations. They gravitate so strongly to Donald Trump and Fox News and that rhetoric, and trying to find that through line between empathy deficits and conservative ideology.
Yeah, and the people who are, empathy is the ability to feel and experience in yourself what other people are experiencing. It's this thing called mirror neurons in our brain. And Elon Musk famously said that empathy is the big bug in Western civilization. He considers it a bad thing. That's a fairly common, maybe not with regard to Western civilization, but just dissing empathy is a rather common perspective among sociopaths and psychopaths. In fact, one of the major differentiators, one of the major things that identifies sociopaths and psychopaths is that they don't experience empathy, or they experience it in a very, very small measure. So what do we do with that knowledge?
Well, so that's something that we hoped to explore in the book, and I think we found some pretty solid conclusions. Right now, there isn't a reliably effective intervention for improving empathy among adults, who have the most severe personality disorders. Largely, that's because most of those disorders are the people who have them don't admit to themselves that they have them. They don't want to work on that. To them, they're really good at that. So those are the people who therapy doesn't work on. Right. Are the people who say they don't have anything to do wrong, and they lie to their therapists and they believe. Yeah. Very much, absolutely. And that's part of why these people really, it's fascinating, because they'll, the tough on crime, they're very good at ignoring the rhetoric that puts them down. And so what we can do with it, though, is we can look at the research that's found that people can shift their views, their beliefs, their identity, but it takes them being in different communities, having different information being brought to them. If you're our beliefs and our identity are so largely influenced, for every single one of us, by the beliefs of the people who we communicate with, who we trust, who we love, and the information that's being brought to us. And so when we look at MAGA, what we see is that these people, their worldview is totally logical to them. Their, lack of empathy with certain populations is the default. It's obvious to them. It's common sense, right? Mm-hmm. And if we ever want to change that, they have to be getting different information brought to them. There was one study that found that just spending a few weeks away from Fox News actually improved amygdala function and prefrontal cortex function in people. They were more capable of experiencing empathy, and they were more closely attached to what reality is as far as the information environment. So there are things we can do. And one of the suggestions, too, that I just want to bring up in the book is, actually teaching cognitive empathy in schools and in education and to our children. And, parents who identify as conservative are less than 50-50 chance that they're going to say that empathy is a value that they want to pass on to their children. But for parents who identify as liberal or progressive, about 80% of them say that that's something they want to pass on to their children.
Right. And probably that empathy deficit or access to empathy, is the predicate for the political worldview. I mean, this is Dane, John Altman, I think his first name is John, a fellow named Altman, anyway, wrote a book about...
I just want to say, I think that teaching applied cognitive mindful empathy, that's essentially what that is mindfulness and applying, if this would suck for, if this thing sucks for someone else, I should recognize that even if it wouldn't suck for me, I don't like things that suck. And so, let's try to avoid things that suck for other people, right? So it seems like it's a pretty easy concept, but there is a I know, never mind. You know what? I'll wait until I have Morgan on before I talk about this again, but there is an element of this that gets kind of right in the weeds of discussing biological distinctions between people that could factor into this. But yeah, even without that, I'm going to close on this other video that supplements this one we were just watching about where conservatism comes from. That's not necessarily about any biological factors or anything, but is about just a response to things.
Is all about perpetually being a loser. Let me explain. I recently saw a YouTube video where a guy was just honestly asking, how is it that all of these YouTube personalities just suddenly came out of the woodwork and started being right-wing grifters? And I saw somebody who responded and said that it's a lot about them not being able to be successful in what they wanted to be. And he gave an example of somebody like Ben Shapiro, whose entire family is apparently really deep in like Hollywood culture and making money off of Hollywood, only he's not. So as a result, he's just bashing everything that comes out of Hollywood because he's fucking jealous deep down. But I decided to extrapolate that out to other people, because a lot of people who suddenly go full conservative, they seem to do so because what they originally wanted to do or what they wanted to be known for, they fucking failed at. For example, let's take more Hollywood and television celebrities. Kirk Cameron, Kevin Sorbo, Scott Baio, fucking Rob Schneider. All of these are people who started off semi-popular, and then once they faded into obscurity, they started just getting pissed because, much like other conservatives, they said that everybody else was taking their job, when really, they just fucking sucked. We've seen tons of examples of athletes who are deathly afraid of losing a competition to a trans woman. But then again, let's remember who Donald Trump is himself. He's gone his entire life being a narcissistic loser. He has failed at every single business venture he's ever tried. Trump Magazine, Trump Vodka, Trump Steaks. He bankrupted multiple casinos. He committed hundreds of millions of dollars of fraud to falsely inflate or deflate the values of his properties to get tax breaks, just so he could stay above water. And now he makes a shit ton of his money grifting bullshit off of his followers, selling them gold sneakers, expensive Bibles, Trump coins, Trump RX, the dumbest shit you could ever think of, because conservatives are fucking gullible. For example, I bet you $1 billion that if I suddenly came on here, renounced every left-wing ideal I had, and I suddenly became a hardcore MAGA, I could make $1 trillion fucking dollars selling bullshit on here like protein bars, supplements, MREs, and fucking shoes. Fortunately, I have a conscience. And that's what we found with all of these people out there. We discovered that their conscience was either non-existent or was worth far less than a speaking engagement fee to go to a college and say that Trump is the second coming of Jesus. And that's always ultimately the funniest part. Those of us on the left who typically are a lot less religious, we are always more Christ-like than the people who claim to be Christian.
That's true. And just to kind of counterbalance all of that I just showed, I'm going to show this clip again of the comedian from the beginning of the stream, Gianmarco Ceresi. He makes kind of the opposite point in this anecdote that he does here. And then we'll be, I'll be getting out of here. By the way, I do still have, let me get the link because I do still need to I need to collect some funds. Still, I've been trying not to, bug you guys about that because I fucking hate it actually, that asking for money, but I'm still at a point where we're not super confident with what we have being quite enough. And so, yeah, let me get this link again. Actually, I'm going to put the QR code on screen, and we'll just do it that way. If you are able to, you have the means, and you're able to help, just hit up that guy right there, and donate what you can. It's definitely appreciated. And I will ask you this. Here's what I'll ask. If you've watched this stream and if you've enjoyed any of it, if you've gotten some kind of value of it, whether it's just killing time or whatever, please share that link. Go to the QR code, grab the link, share it on whatever social media platforms that you happen to use. And that I am very much encouraging you to do, and I appreciate it greatly. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you. This is not the greatest time in the history of my channel as far as like consistent content and even quality of content. As far as I'm concerned, I know that I have people on here on a regular basis that do a great job. Myself, not so much. I'm looking forward to a time very soon when that will be able to change. Right now, we kind of slumming it, and I appreciate you guys that like to hang out and give me a reason to show up and just talk and yeah. It means a lot to me. So that in mind, here is this.
Progressive views, but that doesn't mean I'm a good person. I have progressive views, but that doesn't mean I'm a good person. Liberals make that mistake sometimes. I have a more conservative friend, and he has views that really, he's one of those guys, and we all know those guys, who's like, you see this article? No, a trans woman played volleyball, made a little girl explode. And I can't stand that shit, because the kind of guys that complain about trans women playing women's sports are the same kind of guys that told guys like me in high school, you run like a girl, you throw like a girl, and now they're mad because some of us followed through. But I will say, in his defense, he is a wonderful human being, better than I could ever imagine being. I'll tell you a story. Once, me and my conservative friend, we were walking down the street in New York City. In front of us was walking a woman in very high heels. As far as I could tell, she was trans. Now, at some point, this woman, she tripped on her right heel. She fell into the street right as a bus was approaching. And my conservative friend ran into the street, scooped her up just in the nick of time, helped her on her feet, sent her about her way, and then he turned to me and was like, that's why men shouldn't wear heels. It was a lot of things all at once. And I want to be clear, I think that's a shitty thing to do. But if I had been alone, I would have been like, oh no, she's dead.
To keep getting the tax cuts, to keep getting the subsidies, to keep getting the favorable contracts, he will always slurp them nuts from the back, bro. And here's Jeff Bezos. Slurp City, son. Slurp City. Going, oh, he's actually more mature. He's actually kind of brilliant. He's actually a genius. He actually has slimmed down quite a bit. His dick is looking mighty thick these days, bro. I mean, he's got a big old schlong. That guy right there, that's a special guy right there. Oh, my word. The way Capital always fucking caves to the fascists is so disturbing. So disturbing.